author of this book. I know a lot of you said this. Money doesn't grow on trees. A Parent's Guide to Raising Financially Responsible Children. Why should a parent let their children know how much money they make? I think most parents would be afraid the child's going to go and blab it out in school.
Well, what's interesting is we grew up with, most of us, the biggest secret in the family was what dad or mom earned. And there's no way to expect a child to understand when you say, hey, I can't afford that. I mean, that's the first thing you say. What does that mean? I don't know what that means. I don't know what too expensive means either. You have to teach them there's a line. There's a finite amount that you can spend. And there's no better way than sitting down with them, with all the bills, pay yourself in dollars and say, okay, the government gets paid first. That goes. Now here, we have a house, we have a car, we have electricity. By the way, when you keep the light on a lot, it costs a little bit more each month. And go right down. Here's what's left over.
Wow.
Now, you want this, you want
good,
that.
don't you, Sally?
And that's what, they keep every secret. They know what's going on in the house, Oprah. They know everything. You tell them this is a secret. This doesn't get shared, but that's the pressure on me. This is what's left over.
And so if you could see it, you should do it with cash money. Because if you could see it with real money,
absolutely,
then the kids get to see it, so then they know when they go to the store that we only had $200 left for the whole month. So if I spend $25 on this, then that's not going to be enough for something else.
Exactly.
Well, won't it make kids feel a sense of pressure? Won't it make them feel more a sense of...
Kids love reality. Kids know what a limit is. Kids understand. This is it. Oh, okay, I get it. Steve have to do, and they're starting. They're communicating now. They're talking to each other about money. They never did that before. In fact, that's why I even wrote the book, Money Doesn't Grow on Trees, so parents can start the conversation with kids. These guys have started talking, and they've really made a lot of progress, Oprah.
Have you really?
Yeah, we have.
Well, Jamie and Steve married 6 months after they met, and they never really discussed financial matters until after the wedding, when creditors start to hound Jamie. And Neale says there's never a perfect moment to bring up finances, but you must do that as soon as possible. So you just kind of never talked about it. Why? This is interesting what she was saying, that people just don't talk. Why didn't you talk about it? Because...
I just figured that everything would be... I figured that everybody thinks the way I do, and that, you know, she would take care of things, and, you know, not knowing that it's like an alcoholic addiction.
That she's secretly shopping on you.
Yeah, I didn't have any idea. It's like me trying to say the color of blue. You know, what is the color of blue? Can you
explain that?
Explain that.
Well, it's in your shirt right now, but... Yeah,
but...
Yeah. So you're saying that you just assumed, as a lot of people do, you assumed that she felt the same way about money as you did. That's one of the biggest mistakes, right?
Exactly, and they have to talk about that. I mean, you said before the divorce rate is really due to money issues. And these people, like everybody else, have to talk about it. They have different financial personalities. Jamie's a spender, and Steve is a saver, and that doesn't always meet real well.
But it's good, though, because if Steve was a spender and I myself is a spender, we would be right now in public.
When you decide to loan money.
You sit down and you spell out your expectations if you're the loaner. I expect to get the money back. This is when I need it. Can you do it? Yes or no? The other person has to be honest and say, I can do it or I can't. Walk into a bank and get a loan form. There is a note form, and it's a standard note form. You can put interest in or you don't have to put interest. That's up to you. And sit down and say, can you do this? And you have to be honest, and you have to use the right words. I can or I can't. And if I can't, the person who can't better open his mouth right away and say, this month is going to be impossible. I cannot do it.
Doesn't it also happen, too, that a lot of the expectations are unrealistic? I mean, what stopped me from loaning money is I had loaned like $30,000 to a really close friend who's since passed away. And the person swore, wrote the contract, I'm going to pay you $500 a month beginning on such and such a day. I got one payment. Never got another payment, and decided that I would have to let it go myself. I would release it and forget about the loan and still be friends with the person. Otherwise, the relationship would have become strained. And that's what I meant by if you're gonna loan it, then don't loan anything that you're not willing to give.
In the ideal world, that would be wonderful to be able to say, you know what, it's a gift.
Yeah.
You say it's a gift. You may put them on a loan, but you say, I've written that off. I'm not going to see it. If you can afford it. But there may be situations where you can't.
I realize that my financial circumstances are a little different.
Could I borrow some money? Right.
Yes.
The thing is that bankruptcy should be the absolute last resort, Oprah. That should be the end of the line. Because the fact of the matter is, yes, It does keep you from having your home foreclosed upon. It does keep the repo man away from your car. But the fact of the matter is it follows you forever. I know you've declared bankruptcy, and I understand why you did it. But the fact of the matter is it doesn't go away, Oprah, because when you walk into a bank someday to get a loan for your house or your car, on that little loan application it says, did you ever declare bankruptcy? You have to be honest with that. So you're really going to have this follow you for the rest of your life. There's no set rule at what point. It's really when it's over your head and you can't handle it anymore and you know there's no way to work it out. I really always want to work with people to work debt out. That should be the goal. We're going to work together. You're going to see these guys get out of debt. You're going to see what's going to happen. This guy's going to be saving a lot of money in 6 months.
He is?
Yeah.
You are?
Before there was money, people used to trade for what they wanted and what they needed, and we called that barter. So they'd swap things. If you had trees and I had seashells, we'd get together and we'd swap things. Lots of things. They used feathers and seashells and dog's teeth and elephant's tusks, and they even used dead rats.
Dead rats? Ooh, sick.
Money is really exciting to take a look at because it tells the history and a story about our country. If you just landed on this earth and didn't know anything about us, you could tell an awful lot about us from our money. Take a look at the light green part of your dollar and you'll see the pyramid. The pyramid is not finished, and that shows that our country is still growing. And if you look at the top of the pyramid, you're going to see an eye, and that's supposed to represent the watchful eye of God. The eagle is the symbol of the United States.
In your book, you say that you should start giving allowances to kids at a very early age. You say 3 years old. 3 years old?
3 years old. Educators feel that at 3, there's this cerebral connect that says if you ask a kid what mommy and daddy do with the money in a store, mommy and daddy buy things. Then the kids are ready to start learning. They understand it's a medium of exchange.
We live in such a money-oriented society already. Some people are going to listen to this and say, hey, give them a break. Wait a little while. They're going to get inundated with this as adults.
Well, the problem is you want your kids to grow up to be financially responsible. There's no way to really expect them to do that unless you give them a framework. We do that with a lot of things. We teach them to brush their teeth at a really young age. Now, you know a 3-year-old with an electric toothbrush. We have stalactites of toothpaste on the ceiling in the bathroom. They're not really doing anything other than learning a habit.
And you're paying them for it.
I'm paying. No, that they don't get paid for.
So what do you get paid for when you give allowance?
Well, actually, what you have to do is teach them natural consequences. And the consequences work for pay. You know, no work, no pay. So what you're doing is they have to do chores over and above what they normally have to do as a citizen of the household. They have to brush their teeth. They have to take care of their rooms. I have to be able to see the carpet at least once a week in their room. And over and above, they do chores. They clean and they sweep and they do things.
Now, in the piece, we saw your dog.
What I do when money doesn't grow on trees is give parents helpful tips and games that they can do with their kids to incorporate this into their lifestyle.
Okay, give me a tip. I have a 6-year-old. How much should I be giving her a week?
If she's watching, this is going to be really good news because she's going to get a raise. The 50-cent a week allowance only proves that it's not worth it to work. You have to make it worth it to them. What I do is I pay the kids their age.
Ooh, so $6 a week.
$6 a week. But I expect them to do a lot with that because you're also setting up a budget for them.
Okay, now in your book you mentioned having 3 separate jars.
Yes.
I thought that was kind of cute.
Well, that's the budget, exactly. The first jar is for short-term cash. Now, that's all the I want. That's for all the things that they ask for in the grocery store. That's the first jar. The second jar is medium-term cash. Now, that is for saving for rollerblades or a bicycle. That's pushing off that really instant spending and showing them that instant gratification is not always the best thing, that you actually can get better stuff if you save up your money. Now, the third jar is for long-term savings, and you're teaching them you have to start saving for college. And frankly, most
take
adults,
a lot of jars for that.
well, most adults haven't figured out that they have to save either. We have the lowest savings rate of any industrialized nation in the world.
But I got to be honest, if I was a kid, I'd...
I'm thinking of doing this. I have a 14-year-old son. Okay, now I'm going to give him, I give him a lot of money that you're going to think I'm nuts, but he lives in California and he's in high school, and I give him $30 a week, okay? And he has to do everything with this money. Now, he does have chores and some of those things that we talked about there that he must do. But out of that, if he wants to go to the movies or buy a CD or whatever, that's his money. He can't come to us for anything. I was thinking, because he's going through it, pretty darn quick of taking $120, putting it in a checking account, giving it to them once a month, and say, go have fun. When you're done with the $120, if you do it on the first day, that's your problem. The next check comes to the first. Is that okay?
That's wonderful. In fact, what I would do is really sit down and do a whole budget with your 14-year-old. In fact, it's in my book, But He Doesn't Grow on Trees, for teenagers. Now, the deal is, though, you decide what you're willing to spend on discretionary items like food and clothing and all the other stuff that the kids do at the mall. And then all that money is put into the account. You'll find it's probably going to be even a little more than $120 a month, Mark. Yes.
And how do you divide the money into the jars? How do you separate what goes into which jar?
Well, I get $8, and I normally put maybe 2 in quick cash or maybe 1, because I can take money out of quick cash and put it in medium savings, but I can't take money out of
long term?
Yeah, long term, and put it in other jars. And I divide it up, like I would put maybe 2 in quick cash,
and to make it simple, you can divide a third in the jars in the very beginning.
Kelly, how do you feel about this system? You've never done it. Would you like to apply it to your life?
Yeah, I like it. I still have my own money.
Do you feel good about yourself when you go out and purchase something on your own? Does that make you feel special?
Yeah, it does.
That's good.
But what makes me feel more special is when I buy things for other people.
Oh, my. Well, you're a terrific guy. That's terrific. So it teaches a little bit about charity. And
yeah, it does.
I know. As a mother, that couldn't have been better on national TV.
Thank you, sweetheart. That's so good. On national television,
hey,
yes.
It makes it all right.
That's
terrific.
right.
Well, Kelly, I hope you get a chance to apply this. Rhett, good luck to you.
Advice for parents this morning. Just as children learn to brush their teeth, look both ways before crossing the street, and wash behind their ears, so should they learn to handle money. And we're talking about more than just an allowance here. This advice comes from Neale Godfrey, former president of the First Women's Bank and founder of the First Children's Bank. Her book is called A Penny Saved, Using Money to Teach Your Child the Way the World Works. I love this idea. You know, we always say that parents kind of fall down on the job when it comes to teaching kids about sex, but I guess we're just as bad at when teaching about money.
We are. I mean, we were just raised in the Donna Reed generation where polite people just didn't talk about money.
But we can teach them about values, and we're not a nation of savers. Maybe if we taught them better, the next generation could do a better job at that.
We can have a profound effect. If we start working with our kids, we can raise them to be financially responsible.
When do you start? At what age should you start this?
Well, Joan, we start teaching life skills to our kids when they're little teeny, the 3-year-olds. Right. We teach them to brush their teeth and to put their clothes on frontwards to backwards. And it's time to start then when they say, Mommy, I want this, I want this. It's time to start saying that you have to earn the money before you can spend it.
So as soon as they get it, that we buy things. Right. That's what you're saying, right?
Exactly.
Start teaching them. Should you start giving them an allowance at that age,
They have to start earning an allowance. They have to do chores. But those are chores over and above what they have to do as a citizen of the household.
Okay, so wait. So we should have chores that they should do that should have nothing to do with money. That they don't get, that are just part of this. Is, you have to do this because you live here.
Right.
And then chores that you get for money.
Exactly, exactly. My kids have to keep their room free of breeding diseases, and they don't get paid for that.
All right.
What do you tell kids about stocks at that
well,
age?
When the 6-year-old is a little early to start stocks, but for the older children, it's really important to get them involved. And by the way, once they figure out how it works, I would buy them a stock that they could identify, something in terms of one of the consumer products that they buy or movies that they watch. Teach them how to read the stock pages. For a little kid, it's really easy once you teach them the systems. And if you have one of the computerized systems, they love following it. And you'll see them get really involved. So what I would do is let them get involved directly with the movement of the stock.
What's your opinion on, my kids are in the 8th grade, 7th grade, and 5th grade. At some point, start to look at possibly a debit card or a Visa card or even a checking account. And I thought that might show them money management, but it would also allow me to kind of monitor their spending and be able to go over with them where their money actually is going.
I think it's great to get them involved in real financial products, but what I would start out with first is a checking account and teach them those facts of life, that just because you have checks does not mean that you can keep drawing against your account if there's no money in it. Credit is a privilege and not a right, and you have to make sure that the kids understand that concept. So I like the idea of a debit card much better than a credit card for a child.
You would give a child in the 7th grade a checking account?
If the kids were responsible, definitely. In fact, what I do is figure out what you spend on them for the month, put the money into an account, let them make their own decisions in terms of spending.
Wow.
I want to introduce Neale Godfrey. Neale is here, and she says that you have to teach your kids what money can't buy, which is what we've all been talking about. And she's written a new book. It's called A Penny Saved. I loved the idea of teaching your kids what money can't buy, because right now we're raising a society where everybody believes that money can buy everything.
Absolutely, Oprah. And unless we start instilling these values and teaching these kids the real life skills and the real values that they're going to need in the real world, then we're just going to keep creating this and keep fostering this. And this is scary stuff. And in my book, A Penny Saved, I talk about the values and do it through games and activities and get these kids involved in understanding.
But I know you really do believe in your own kids. Your kids start early. How do you, you know, you got a 13-year-old, a 16-year-old here, a 13-year-old bringing home Fs. How do you get him involved in a game to be saving things now?
Because the game is, it's work for pay, and you don't get it unless you earn it. My daughter's here, and she's 12.
How serious is it? I mean, earlier, I know you were in the back, you heard Dr. Damon talking about what this is doing to society. How serious do you think this is?
This is serious. This hits us to our core, because there's no way to expect these kids to grow up to be financially responsible unless we as parents and these teachers take it upon themselves to say, this is the way the real world works. That's it, kids. And you don't get everything you want.